Today I do honestly not feel my best. I personally feel like there is so much intense emotions going on within me, which I can observe. There is a lot of pain and a lot of sadness, and it's okay. It's absolutely okay to be there. It has its permission to be there. I completely understand why it is there. It comes out of a conditioned place, and I'm embracing that. But that was just one example of how you could verbalize your truth when talking to someone else. If you ever found yourself in a situation where you just didn't felt like yourself, or where there was anger going on within you but you didn't verbalize it because you were afraid, like, I know how that feels, and to be honest, I've been there multiple times. But it's okay, you are not alone, and today I'm here to go with you through the motions of the power on speaking and verbalizing your truth. That said, welcome to a new episode of the Rising with Love podcast. It's beautiful to have you here. Hope you have a beautiful morning, evening, or midday, whatever time it is at yours. And let's go on this little exploration of speaking one's truth. But before we start, let's do it. Let's just sit down for a second and bring our attention inwards. Guide your attention down to your feet and just see if you can feel into your pinky toe without peeking, by simply noticing and recognizing your inner energy field. Maybe you as well can see if you can feel your pinky finger. And then start to focus on your breath. And start to become aware of the inhalation, which is filling your soul, fueling your soul. And the exhalation, which is leaving your body, emptying your mind. Before we dive a tiny bit deeper into how to speak your truth, I found it is so important to first realize what it does actually mean to speak one's own truth. And that simply means, in what I believe, is like stepping out of my own way. In all of us, there is this deeper place. In all of us, we have this inner energy field. We have our soul, we have our presence, which goes just so much beyond our physical body. And this inner energy field has wisdom. It has so much wisdom, But we so often do not use that wisdom because of our conditioned mind, because we're so identified with the thoughts that we're having in our mind, with the emotions that we can observe in our body, that we let ourselves be guided from a place of scarcity, from a place of being afraid, instead of trusting that whatever lies beyond that is so much more powerful than we can imagine, because it is so much bigger than ourselves. And when I mean you should speak your truth, that is what I'm referring to. You should step out of that way of whatever wants to be expressed through yourself towards the other person. And in that sense, your body is a tool of doing so. And that might be that the other person with that is allowed to learn something, to grow themselves. That might be that the other person that you are allowed to learn something. That might, but mostly that are the two things. Or that the other person is just allowed to grow in their awareness, or you too. It's always a giving and taking for both sides. We've got conditioned, when we were like children, to stop that channeling. We got conditioned that it is wrong if we speak out things right away, if we're honest to other person and what we're able to observe, and if we're honest about our emotions and what we are feeling. Like, there are two dimensions. There's like this inner knowingness, this inner field, and then of course it's the way of how we're expressing that in this 3D reality, in the conversations that we're having with another person. And from this young age, we started to get this conditioning from our parents that told us, like, you can't really say that, you can't really say this. Or they started to scream at you when you were starting to verbalize what was going on with you. For example, you started crying and they would tell you to be quiet, or just shh you down, or tell you, it's not so bad, it's not so bad, it's not so bad. With that, just simply playing down your emotions, and with that, like, playing down your own truth, because you experience what you experience and you can't change that. And it's okay to allow the emotions to be there and to express themselves in whatever way they want to, because it's for the best of all, And the more we get learned to play that down, the less we really start to have control over it, and the more control our emotion take over us. And it's super, super simply, if we don't speak our truth, if we don't share with another person in a situation what's going on within us, like what we're really feeling, experiencing, then we're just pushing away our emotions. We're pressing them down until to a point where they just completely take over us. And then we start to come in a really reactive state, or we start to explode like a volcano. And I'm sure one or the other of us, I'm putting my hand up here, has already been in that experience where they just lost it because it was too much, and they could not anymore. And then there's like this one person in front of you who just gets it all, not just a tiny bit, but like everything. And you can express your truth when you're alone. You can express your truth with another person. There are so many multiple beautiful ways on expressing what is going on, what's truly going on inside of yourself, as soon as you let go of the scarcity. Because scarcity and negative beliefs and inner self-doubts are the number one reason why we choose not to speak our truth. And that could be, for example, that if you feel like crying and you're a man, that it is like in your mind, I can't cry, I can't, because men don't cry, men don't show their emotion, men are not supposed to do that. That's a limiting belief, that's a negative belief. It could be possible that you are in a conversation with someone else, relationships, for example, like regardless which relationship, if it's an intimate one, a romantic one, or just a friendship, you're always going to come to that point in a relationship where you are allowed to grow on each other, and where you are allowed to communicate something which you might not like, or where a person or friend of yours just simply crossed over a boundary, and you are allowed to tell that. Your parents as well, like every relationship. But you're afraid of it. You're afraid because you do not recognize first that they've crossed a boundary of yours. And second of all, because you might not know how, you never really learned on how to communicate your truth in a way which is serving for you and for the other person. And you might just be scared about what's happening when I do so. What's happening? What's going to be the reaction of the other person? There are like so many situations, for example, like in relationship, that's like a common pattern. Taking space for oneself, just really communicating, like, look, like, I love you, I love being together with you, but right now I can see that I am not in my true self. I'm like more identified with negativity. I'm so sad. I really would just need time for myself. And what often can happen is that we are starting to come in this co-independency, and then the other person will start to be mad, be like, no, which is okay too, it is okay too. Like, all our emotions are allowed to be there and allowed to be expressed, and we just never learn on how to deal with them in a healthy way. And it's a great opportunity to first become aware of them, to see them. And only if we see them, if we become aware of them, we have the chance to change. And change takes time. Change doesn't happen from one moment of the second. It happens when you like repeatedly study and train yourself towards a new behavior. That's why awareness and consciousness and this observer state is so important. So you can start to see that for yourself. That is just one situation, one example, but there are so many more. So, what can we do to really start to speak our truth? First of all, we have to become aware of our truth. We have to become aware of what's going on within our body. And if I'm talking about truth, I want to be real clear to that. I am talking about the conditioning that has been happening in your mind, because we are this body, and our body has this function of, we have the brain, which has the creative side, which has the logical side, which lets us experience emotions through the entire body, and those are all functioning. But I always want to bring you back that you are the observer behind that all. You are the one who can observe and who can see the functions of the body. So that is the real truth, and everything that has happened is simply like, your nerves communicating with each other. So we're talking our truth out of that observer perspective. And that might not always be possible. Sometimes we might just be so identified with our thoughts, our words, our thoughts and our emotions that we just start to react through them instead of like consciously thinking on how we would love to act and what would be a great way on handling the situations. And that's a beautiful thing to become aware of as well. You are allowed to make mistakes when you learn to communicate your truth. So I want to go with you through the things or through the tiny goodies that I can give you that makes it a tiny bit more easier for you to express your truth. First of all, it's super important to become aware of this truth. So it's important to understand what are the limiting beliefs that are going on within me. What are the emotions that are going on within me? What can I observe really happening in my body? Let's say you're in a fight or in an argument, or someone is not respecting your boundaries. The first thing which is important is to always stay by yourself, because if you start to point fingers and to be in a conversation, you are doing this and you are doing like, what happens? I'm gonna sign for that is you're gonna start a huge fight. It's gonna come to an ego against ego conversation, and you're gonna go head against head, and it's not gonna lead you anywhere. Instead of like going in circles. Sometimes that is what you need to become aware of, toxic cycles. Sometimes, but if you can avoid it, it would be epic. What that means is like sometimes it means like stepping out of a conversation, becoming aware of the processes that are going on within you, and then stepping in that conversation again to talk through it. If you can't do that because the other person is not accepting or respecting your boundaries, that's the point when you start to might become a tiny bit more louder. Let me see if I have an example for that. For example, just as I said before, like, you have a shit day, you're just really not feeling that, and that you just want to have some time for yourself, but your partner is just really not in the space for it and really is needy as well and really wants you today to be with him. So you would say like, I'm just taking time for myself, and I'm just like giving you an example. Your partner would be like, yeah, but I think that's really shit because you already had time for yourself yesterday. In that case, what you would say is like your truth, like, I can understand that you're feeling that way because everybody is allowed to feel their emotions and to have their emotions. But I need time for myself right now because what I can observe within myself is a lot of tension going on. And if I am not taking care over that tension, what's going to happen is I'm going to let that tension out on you. And I do not want that either for yourself or either for myself. Therefore, I'm going to take the time for myself. If the other person then would start to make a drama, I would just be like real straight and like, there's no discussion in that. I understand that you're hurt or that you have your emotions and that you're going on through everything. And I, for example, can offer you a compromise on coming back to you in a couple of hours, and we can spend some time together. But for now, I need my time. Thank you for respecting that. And then I would just go. And if the other person is mad or sad, whatever, it's perfect. It's okay. They are allowed to be that. It's not your responsibility to take care over their emotion. Everybody has responsibility for their own emotion. That is something so important to understand. If you are speaking your truth, because that is one of the main reasons as well why people are not speaking their truth, because they're afraid of how other people are going to react emotionally. That's okay. You are allowed to hold space. You can hold space if you really feel that for other people's emotion, which means that you give other people the permission to feel their emotions, which is so important, because we all know how easy it is to get hurt, to get scared, to just come out of this conditioning place. Every one of us has it. Every one of us had experienced it in one or the other way, where someone communicated their truth to us and it just got us hurt, even though we might have known that it's nothing personal. We just still took it personal. And with that, we can as well, again, build this compassion for other people and just understanding like, okay, good, they might be upset by that. It's okay. They have their place. It's okay. But it's not my responsibility to fix that, but I can hold the space for them to be upset until to a point where it's crossing the boundaries. And that is something where you're really allowed to get to know your own boundaries, and where you are allowed to start to communicate those boundaries towards another person. In the moment you experience it becoming too much for yourself. For me, it is, for example, when I know someone is coming to my boundaries or pushing over my boundaries, is when I notice that I'm stepping out of that observer space and I'm stepping into the identification with my thoughts and my emotions. Like, I feel that, there are times where I can really observe and where I can see all the sensations going on in my body. I'm aware of the thoughts. It's okay. It all can be there. And then if someone's crossing my boundary, the intensity would become so strong, and my consciousness, my awareness would start to weaken that much that I've really attached to it. I believe that this is me. The moment that happens, I'm gone. I'm basically not aware of what's happening anymore. And you might know that as well. You just start to be really mad, and you just shoot things out, which afterwards you were like, why did I say that? I didn't want it to say that. That's what most of us are afraid of. And I completely get that. I completely understand that you are afraid of that, because it can be really scary to observe your body just taking over. I as well really want to let you understand that that's a protection mechanism that can come from trauma, for example, that you are just learned for yourself, this is what I have to do to be safe, and therefore just come to yourself with a place of compassion and understanding. And the more often that happens, just become aware of it after it happened. Don't judge yourself. Don't blame yourself. You're human. You are a human being. It's okay. It's part of the human side. Allow that part to be there and embrace it. And the more you become aware of it, the more strength it's going to lose, and the more presence you can hold in every conversation. It as well is important to speak your truth, because with that you are seeing your own value, if you are in a conversation in work and people do not realize your own worth, it's okay to speak up for yourself and to say people it's not okay what you're doing here, what you're saying with that. And I want you to understand this. If you speak your truth, if you speak your boundaries, first of all, you're not doing that to hurt anyone. This is not your intention. You are not doing that against anyone. You are doing that for yourself. And that is something so important to understand. You're doing that for yourself, because you want to be there for yourself. And with that, you're doing that for the other person as well, because sometimes it is so important, because we are holding a message that the other person needs to hear. And I have that with my mother, There was a time when I was like starting this coaching business, and I told her, I was like, I'm so unmotivated, like I don't know where to start and la la, and she started to become so strong because she was so annoyed of me by then, and she's like, you know what, Laura, sometimes you just fucking have to start. And I was like so mad at her because I was like, how the heck, like how can she say that to me, you know? And then I said that, I was like, but she's fucking right. I can't talk around that because it's right what she is saying. And we sometimes miss that point, you know, we sometimes miss that understanding that our egos as well sometimes really need a slap in the face to wake up and be like, whoa, like, you know, what the fuck have I just done? Like, what am I doing? And to pull us back to present, to give us this permission to be present again, you know, to step out of the pain body or the victim role that everything is against me. When you hear that and you say that to a person, I have that with my friends often, or like, yeah, in some situations, you know, where they would call me and I would see themselves making themselves down, and I would feel inside, because I'm really intuitive in my guidance. And if I sense that that makes me angry, you know, I would verbalize that to the other person, not in a sense of like I would shout or I would scream at them, but I would be quite strong in my communication and say that like, look, I love you, and I'm saying this right now coming from a place of wanting the best for you, but you gotta stop making yourself down, because you're not gonna come anywhere if you continue like this. And I understand that it's hurtful, and I understand that you are mad, and I get it all, but you are not coming any further if you're gonna continue down that path. It's just gonna become worse. Sometimes we need a person like that really puts that wall in our face and be like, fucking get your shit together. Like, I love you, I understand, I feel you, I get it, but get your shit together and continue, because you're freaking awesome. And I know you're awesome. I'm not saying that to you because I mean that. I'm telling you that because I fucking love you. You know? And sometimes unconditional love can mean that I have to speak another person my truth because I love them so much, that I want to know, that I want them to grow, that I want them to as well see me, and I want to see them too. Whew, that was right. That's really important. And I know, I know in the beginning when you start to speak your truth towards others, it can be so scary because you might have never learned on how to do that properly. And I understand, I completely do. I think my entire journey of really embracing my truth and speaking it towards others started last year. And I was shit as fuck when I started it. Like, it was bad. It was super, super bad. But again, here, you can start to communicate that with people. That's honest communication as well. That's communicating your truth. That's being like, I would say that to my friends. I would say that to Alex, like my partner. I would be coming to him and I would be like, babe, I'm so sorry if I come off strongly. Please let me know. I'm just really learning right now on communicating my truth. And to be honest, like I'm sucking in it right now. But I learn from every conversation we're having, and I'm doing my best and becoming better and better and better in it. And that's with every new skill that you are learning, and communication is a skill. Communication is a skill. And when you're communicating with another person, always make sure that you're coming from a place of me. You know, I experience, I can observe, I see. For me, it feels like. Never, or do your best. Like in the beginning, it might happen. Do your best to stay away from the other person. Not go, you do this, you do that, you do that. But like, and just bring it to yourself. Like, I experience it as this. And that might be because. And then you might have a childhood trauma which comes in your mind. You might have that, but that's other situations, you know, that would be like starting to become aware of your limiting beliefs and of the conditioning and of your traumas that have been happening. With that, if you would start to understanding your family history as well, you would start to understand more and more why you are behaving, why you're reacting in a certain way. And then you can explain that to another person way more easy, and it makes it way more easy for the other person to understand you too. But in the beginning, just really allow yourself to make mistakes and do not put yourself down for that. Not start to argue with yourself. You're learning. You're in a place of learning, and you can always communicate that super honest to the other person that you are learning with right now. And I had that as well, like the first time when I communicated my prices in my yoga classes, you know, and when I said to myself, I gotta stop like giving out free yoga classes, because even though I love teaching for free, I was like, I'm 500-hour yoga teacher, and like I can't give everybody a free yoga class who asks for it. Like if I love to teach for free, you know, but it's like my choice, and I choose the people that I want to give that towards. And I had a conversation in my old hostel where like this girl came to me, and she just she said to me like, oh yeah, it would be amazing if we could do yoga together and you could teach me for an hour. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, no, I really don't feel like it. But I was not able to communicate my truth because I was aware of what she would be thinking of, afraid of what she would think about me. I was scared if she would then think like I'm mad or like I'm a bad person. So I was just like saying like, yeah, sounds great. And kind of thought like, hope that she would never ever ask for it again. And she did though. A couple of days later, she was like saying, like coming up to me again and being like, oh, so what about that yoga session? When are you having time? And I knew that I that was the point where I really knew that I have to stand up now and say that, because like the point is, if you give out too many things for free, it really starts to drown you, because you put in energy somewhere where there's no ventile to come back, you know, it's not coming back to you. You gotta be aware and careful of your own energy resources. And sometimes you have a lot of energy, and that's amazing. And you can give, you know, free things to people because it's just accessible and available for yourself. But sometimes, because as we're humans, that might not be the case. And sometimes you need that exchange. So you are getting energy back for that as well. And that was one time period where I just didn't have energy to give back for free, you know. And anyways, if I wanted to, like, I would have loved it to come from me and not from someone else deciding that I'm going to teach them for free. And she asked again, I was like, oh my God, it was so bad. It was so bad. She was like, so what's about this free yoga class? And I was so insecure in it. And I was like literally standing there, like stumbling, like my body posture was like catastrophic. I was like holding onto a chair to get the security, the safety. And I was like, well, you know, if you want to have a private yoga class, that would be like over €100 per hour. So bad. And she was looking at me completely shit, like no surprise. I would have looked at myself in the same way. And she was like, but not even for fun. And I was like, still holding on to this chair, like really being like, no, because, you know, teaching isn't really fun for me. It's work. Although I love it. Of course, it's a lot of fun, but it's like still work. You know, I was like, it's work. And she's like, so you don't want to do yoga with me? And I was like, no. Oh, so bad. And like, I felt like the way, and there were like even other people around. It was super awkward. I felt so awkward. I had to laugh about myself because I was like, this is absolutely catastrophic what you're doing right now. I never communicated that bad in my entire life. But I looked at her and I said to her, like, look, I'm super sorry, like, if that came across quite weird right now. Like, it's nothing personal. I do not mean bad, but I'm really learning right now on communicating my boundaries. And to be honest, I'm quite shit in it. So I'm learning. I can't give you a private class for free because for me it's work. But what I can do is we can go upstairs and do some YouTube classes together. With that, I can focus on my own yoga as well. So we did that. And that was fine for me. That was the compromise. I felt comfortable with that. I felt like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And I started to really learn that in multiple more situations. And now I'm speaking my truth in every situation. But I had to be in those places where it started to be really shit, where it started to be really, really uncomfortable. It is scary. It is super uncomfortable to speak your truth for the first time and to let someone else know, like, no, I'm not okay with what you're doing right now. But the more often you do, the more easy it's gonna get to you, you know. And I was as well, like, for example, for me, it always as well was hard to say no to people who were hitting on me on the street. And I was like, as well, it was like a learning process, because like the more you do that, you in the beginning, for me, it was completely like the ego came up so many times and the judgment came up so many times. But the more often I did that, the more often I started to really understand as well the other person. It's not their fault either. Like, it's in human nature to take advantage of things if they're there. And we're not doing that on purpose. It's just like the way how we're designed to be, you know. It's just the way, and it's something which you are allowed to become really conscious as well about, you know. Even other people are not doing things on purpose because they want to hurt you. It's just the way how they've been conditioned. It's just the way how they identify themselves in their minds. And we as well give other people a great learning opportunity with that, you know. And there were like multiple more situations where I was allowed to get a new perspective on it, you know, like guys hitting on me, for example, being like passing by me and saying like, nice bra, can I have your Instagram? And I was like looking at this guy's phone. I was like, no, actually you can't. I'm not feeling comfortable with this. And like in the beginning I was like quite strong. I was like, yeah, I speak my truth. And then I started to learn more and more and more to speak my truth in a really compassionate way towards others, in a really understanding way. For example, like I had a conversation with a guy who I met in the sauna in an aesthetic dance, and this guy just didn't stop talking with me. But I really felt like for now this conversation is enough for me, and I just really didn't felt like engaging in that conversation anymore. So I just told him, and I was like saying to him, I was like, look, I really enjoyed this little time of conversations which we had, but like for now I just really feel like I want to continue on with my day, and I just hope you have a great day. And he asked me like, oh, can I have your Instagram? I was like, it's super nice that you ask, but to be honest, like I just don't really feel like it, but I really hope you have a great time here and you're enjoying your time, and I wish you the best for your future. And I meant that. So there are so many ways how you can respect another person for being there, you know, respect the other person for the being that is within themselves, but still tell their minds kind of like, I'm just not feeling comfortable with going any further. I'm just not feeling comfortable with giving you my number. I'm just not feeling comfortable with working for that money. I'm just not feeling comfortable by giving that to you or by doing that for you. So important that we speak up for ourselves. It's so important that we stand up for ourselves. It's so important that we show other people where our boundaries are, and that we're learn to communicate in this honest and truthful way. Because only then we can bring in a new world which has more compassion and understanding for others, because we're starting to become more passion and understanding for ourselves. So what you can do to learn that a tiny bit is like start to have a conversation in your mind about it. Like, for example, say there's a person you want to have a conversation with. There's a person you have something that you want to tell them since ages, and it's on your heart, and it always comes up like month after month after month. I had that with Alex for a really long time. I write it in a letter, wait for the right moment and right moment to appear, or simply have the bravery to speak it out, because maybe this message that you hold for another person has something so important to share. Maybe it has something which the other person just needs to hear in this very second, in the moment you start to stop overthinking. Should I send this message? Is this really right? Like, if it feels right in that moment, it's 100% right. Just do it, you know. Don't let your limiting beliefs stop you from doing what you should do. Get out of your own way in that sense. And just practice that. If you want to say that to the person, and before that, set your intention. Like, what do I want to achieve? Sounds wrong. What is the main purpose behind that message? Like, what is it that I really want from here? Is it to share love? Is it just to make peace? Is it to clarify? Is it to speak up things? Sometimes it as well just might be saying someone like, what you did back then really hurt me, and it still does hurt me. But when we're saying those things to another person, this is something super important as well. I really want you to understand that you are not communicating your truth because you hold any expectations towards the other person, in a sense of that they would start to understand you, or they would start to forgive you, or whatever, that is not the reason. We're communicating because we know that we're worthy to speak our own truth, and because we want to get it out of our own system, out of our body, because we want to acknowledge what is going on within us. And often that message that we send, might have a really deep effect on the person without us even knowing what's going on within the person. So practice that in your mind, really think, what can you say to the other person, in having in mind of communicating from a me perspective, from I can observe this within myself. I could notice that when you said that really hurt me, which might be because of this and this and that, but I just wanted you to know that that was the effect that you had on me, because maybe that will help you, maybe that will make you understand that it just are like, or you could even say like, I would have loved you if that's the way how you would have shared it, or if you felt like you need to say that to me, if you would have communicated it more in a way like that. And then just opens up the realm for new things. And if you feel like your mind holds this inner resistance against it, and your mind doesn't really want you to say out things, sometimes there might be a reason for that. So it might be worth having a look behind it and question, are the limiting beliefs in here? Comes it out of a place of scarcity? And I personally always stay really conscious that I do my best to not make decisions out of a place of scarcity, but I'm following love instead. Those are my more own values. And like everything that I'm saying here, just please pick out which is resonating with you and which makes sense for you, and leave the rest where it is. It needs to fit for yourself. Play a little game with your mind and just tell your mind, if you see it's coming from a place of scarcity, again, your mind just wants to protect you, it as well has this protection organism of like, I don't want you to be hurt, I want you to be safe. That's the job of the ego as well. So if you see that, just really say to make this deal with your mind of being like, I know I love you. I know you just want to keep me safe, and I highly appreciate that you're doing that. I highly appreciate that you're keeping me safe. But for now, can I just have like 10%? Can I just play with 10%? Like I would really love to have those 10% so I can communicate that. And you might gonna like it, you might gonna like how this is going to end. So just give me that try. Let's have this chance. And then your mind might gonna give you the opportunity of like speaking that out. And you can even set yourself that intention. That's what I am doing as well. Like I say like, okay, so this is what I want to have to say to that person. I know I really have to talk about that topic. I know I'm going to talk about that topic. And then I just trust it. I was like, I'm trusting it. Like I trust my own system. I trust my own system to find the right moment when I'm with that person. And that moment appears. You feel that moment. And now it's starting to come more out naturally and more naturally and more naturally. And it's all natural rhythm. And in the beginning as well, like you only can make good decisions if you made wrong decisions before, because that's how you as well strengthen your intuition on knowing what it should do and where it should do it. So, I'm just thinking if I forgot something. But I felt like that was it. If there is a question that you have about that topic, if there's something which wasn't quite clear to you, if there's something which you would love to understand more in depth, please always feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any question of yours. And with that said, let's just end today with coming back in our centers. There was a lot of information again, so just find yourself in a comfortable position and just tune in again. Start to become aware of your own presence, of this inner energy field, which is always accessible for you, which is always behind every emotion, behind every thought, but it's just this deeper, deeper, deeper knowing, this deeper being. And guide your awareness, your attention towards your breath. Feel how the air is filling you up with every inhale. and how it gives you permission to let go with every exhale. And become aware of your senses. Become aware of what you can hear beyond my voice. Of what you can feel in your body, which sensations. Maybe a tingling and itching. Maybe there's a smell in the air which you can notice. Or maybe you feel the floor underneath your feet. Or your chair that you are sitting on, or wherever you are right now. Take one more deep breath in. And with that said, thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you had an amazing journey. If you like that podcast, please feel free to give it a 5 stars. Check by on my YouTube channel if you want to find some cool meditation. And have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. I'm sending you all the love and all the light. May you be happy. May you be free.